One thing that I remember I was asked a lot was, are bookkeeping businesses really profitable? Now, why is this important? Because in a lot of cases, people think that maybe if they're starting local or if they're starting with a certain number of clients, can they actually make money within this business model? So my name is Bryce, and just in case you don't know my story, I started my accounting business back in 2015. Now, it took me a little bit of time to get things moving, but once I did, I reached six figures. I reached 16 grand a month in sales. It took me about 17 months to do. Yeah, and these videos are basically my sharing of what I've learned over the last 10 years so that maybe it can help you out and you don't have to repeat the same mistakes that I made. So the number one thing when it comes to how profitable can a bookkeeping business be is really going to be, can you keep your expenses low? And we're gonna talk about completely necessary expenses. Then we can maybe talk about some like tax-based expenses. Number one, okay, to really run this business, you really only need three things. So once you start getting clients, you need insurance, right? So you need business insurance. Now that's going to cost you generally about 100 to about 150 a month. Let's say 110 just to be on the mid side, right? So about $110 a month per insurance. Next thing is going to have some kind of either social media upgraded social media account. So let's say, for example, LinkedIn has a feature called Sales Navigator. It also has LinkedIn Premium. That's about $100 per month, give or take $9 to $10, right? Then you're also going to have $100 in miscellaneous office expenses. This is each month, right? So when I say a miscellaneous office expense, that could be if you're going to have prepaid legal. It could be if you're going to have Canva. If you have some really small tools, maybe a CRM. Now, if you're doing taxes and you have some kind of tax software, that's a little different. But in most cases for a bookkeeping business, at least to start, because remember, QuickBooks Online was free for accountants, so like you're not going to have that many expenses. Now, once you have that, it's about $310 per month, or about $3,200 per year, right? Now, that's very significant because if you have no clients, that could seem like a lot, but in reality, man, if this was 10 years ago, in order to start a business, you used to have to invest a minimum of $50,000, like $50,000. And I think a lot of times today, like, we're very blessed that we don't have to come out to those levels, but that's also why 90% of business owners fail, because if you're approaching this how can I invest the least amount to get the most amount out of it? And it's not that's bad, that like wanting to be frugal is a bad idea. It's just the mentality of I'm going to put in like a subpar effort and I'm expecting to get this exponential return. Okay, so let's think about it. So if you think about how many business or people in the United States make $200,000 per year, it's 5% to 3% of Americans. Only 3% of Americans bring in $200,000 per year of income. Why is that? It's because 97% of people either can't do that, don't have the skills to do it, don't get paid enough to do that. So if you're talking about making $200,000 a year, $150,000 a year, you have to either be in a vehicle that leverages what you're doing, that's what the bookkeeping business does, but you have to be expecting to put in a slightly above average amount of effort over time to go and get this exponential result. And if you're watching, I'm sure that you aren't aware of this, but that's one thing I think that some people just don't understand. That's why like most people are not successful in business. Now, some people might be asking, because like I get that question too. Why do some people like are not unsuccessful, whether it's like in business or just in general? It's really the mindset. It's like what's in between here is going to be the difference between you succeeding or failing. And if you see some lack of effort that your competitors are putting in, and you just put in a little bit more effort than everyone else, you're going to be naturally rising to the top. Because here's the cool thing. Not only will you start getting clients today, but all the people that maybe didn't go with you because they went with someone cheaper or they went with some like person up the street, that person up the street is not operating like a professional. And business owners get very tired of that over time. It's almost, let's say, in dating, where you maybe see this woman and you're a man, you get very jealous that she's dating all these bad boys. Over time, this person is going to get tired of being treated differently by the bad boys, and they're going to start coming to you. It's the same thing with business. That's the secret of business. You just outlast every other person who's your competitor, and then now your competitors go out of business. Now you go and take all of their clients. It's so simple just to get good. So if you have any kind of consistency, any kind of work ethic, and you're not afraid of putting a little bit more effort and time than everyone else, and like when I say a little more effort and time, it's not a lot. It's if you can spend like 30 minutes every day just on growing your business, you're going to be light years ahead of people. For example, I had a student who was at $5,000 a month in her business when she came to me. And she had been at $5,000 a month. She'd been in business for like 3 years before she came to me. And she just couldn't figure out why she wasn't growing. So the first thing we did was like take a look at her schedule, and it's like she spends 80% of her day doing client work and 0% of her day actually doing marketing. I was like, if you're always working with your existing clients, how are you expecting to grow? And she's like, won't they start giving me referrals? You've been in business for 3 years. Have you gotten any referrals? No. That's a fallacy. So the fallacy that people have is that your business clients that you're doing bookkeeping for are going to refer people to you. That doesn't always happen. For some people it does, but for most people it actually does not happen that way. And when I talk about referrals, and we'll talk about different referrals in a little while inside this video, right? When I talk about referrals, it's usually from referral partners that are not your client. They're people that are like, I call them client hubs. They already have access in relationships to your existing clients, but they're not your clients, because a lot of times your clients either are so focused on their business they don't really have a lot of business owner friends, or maybe they're in an industry where they are not really dealing with other business owners on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So let's say like someone's like an online fitness coach. They might only know other like personal trainers or fitness coaches. They might, or maybe like a gym owner, but they probably won't know that many super businesses unless maybe they have like clients there. So it's not unusual for a business owner not to know other business owners. So it's like you have to really be just like thinking about that. Now, in terms of profitability, you have to also be considering when you're talking about growing, if you can keep your expenses low, then you should really start thinking about what are some of your goals, right? So when we're talking about our goals, most people's bills are going to be about like $5 to $7,000 per month. So as long as you can kind of get there, you're going to be good. Now, when I'm thinking of profitability, so I'm trying to save anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 per year is the goal for most people I work with, right? Because if you can save that, then you're going to be light years ahead of your actual like revenue goals and your basically your retirement goals, right? And these bookkeeping businesses, let's say that you're doing $100,000 per year minimum, and then your real business expenses are about $3,000 to $6,000 per year. Let's say it's $3,000. You're gonna be at a 97% profit margin before taxes. Now, one thing that's challenging with this, and because no one wants to pay like that much in taxes, right? Like maybe some people do, but I don't, right? So you have to start learning, okay, so what of your old personal expenses can you shift over to be like covered by the business, like your home office expense, right? Maybe you're gonna go on like a vacation, right? You can take a percentage of the vacation if you're doing work on it. Same thing, business meals. So you start looking into your personal life to artificially make the business a little bit less profitable on paper, but now it's supporting more and more of your life, and that's gonna drop your profit margin down over time. But that's good because you're already paying for that anyway. So that's been the biggest thing. So the real challenge with bookkeeping businesses is they're so profitable that you might end up having a tax challenge when you have to pay, let's say to pay like, what is that, 20% of $200,000 net. What is that, 200,000 times, we'll say about 0.24. You have to pay $50,000 out of a $200,000 income, right? That's the biggest challenge. So yes, bookkeeping businesses are profitable, almost too profitable. Because like most businesses that you're going to be running or you're thinking about seeing are operating at it's anywhere between 5% to about 35% is normal for like most like businesses, right? But for these like kind of pseudo professional services businesses, the profit margin is so high because you don't necessarily have an advertising or a marketing expense like most other businesses would have. Okay. Now, the next thing I get asked is, like, in addition to, like, how profitable is a business, do you need to be QuickBooks Online certified, or do you need QuickBooks Online courses? So the answer is, it really depends on where your starting point is and your temperament. Okay, so if you've done accounting in corporate America, or if you've done bookkeeping in corporate America, even if it's not exactly like using QuickBooks, you don't need a QuickBooks course, right? You can maybe do like the refresher, like online QuickBooks certification course, but you're not going to take it for the certification. You're just going to take it to get familiar and more comfortable with QuickBooks. I think a lot of people, what happens is we get lost in getting a million certifications because we're nervous, and the real thing is not necessarily do we know what we're doing, but it's really, am I adapted to this new system? And if I'm not adapted to this new system, I'm really going to be able to offer good service to people. So just spend a little bit of time, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, just download QuickBooks Online Accountant's version, go through the sample companies, just get a feel for actually using and manipulating the software. Okay, now if you're completely new to the industry, it really depends on your temperament. So when I say temperament, some people, they are warriors. like WORRIERS. I think that's how you spell warriors. Where they're worried about what could happen. Is this going to happen? What if I do a bad job? I don't know if I can help this person. Like there's a lot of fear related to it. Versus your temperament's more of I'm cool, calm, collected. I'm going to figure this thing out. If you're worrying all the time, okay, maybe you can start going looking like some QuickBooks courses. If you're a person who's like, okay, let's cool, calm, collect, let's just go and hunt, let's go and attack, just go straight to the clients. Like maybe do the QuickBooks online like certification just for a little bit, just get an understanding of it. But start going to clients. Like your first client, let's say if you're really nervous, right, but you want to get that income and that job security right away. So just get a client that's like very small. So get like a true like $300, $400, $500 per month client. Just get one client like that, like one $300 a month client, just to see. Okay, I got in here. I can do some of the books. It's not exponentially harder than what I thought. This is what the reality is like. Once you get that, okay, maybe your next client's $400 a month. Then your next client's $500 a month. Now, once you get to that $500 per month mark, you're in the zone to where. Sorry, my nose is just so stuffy. You're in the zone to where the clients are now meaningful, right? Once you can start getting clients like $1,000, $2,000 a month, that's when it becomes so much easier to hit like any income goal that you have. And you just have to really focus on, okay, so build a confidence on a small client just so you know that you can do the work, and then just expand and expand. And it just makes things so much easier for you. Now, again, if you're a warrior and you need to get a course, don't get a course for more than about $500 to learn bookkeeping. In the beginning, anything around learning the skill set is a very commoditized piece of knowledge and a piece of education. So when I say that, okay, they're teaching it in community colleges, four-year colleges, they're teaching like master's courses on this. You can so there's a lot of different courses online that can teach you accounting and bookkeeping for under $500. I would really try and spend under $250 for that. What you really want to, if you ever did want to pay for a course, you would pay for a course that can teach you marketing, sales, and pricing, right? Because that's the stuff that's going to give you the direct dollar for dollar return. Learning the skill set, yes, it can be helpful, but until you can get marketing, sales, and pricing down, you're never going to actually have a client that pays you to get a return on your bookkeeping knowledge investment. I've seen it so many times where like someone comes with, oh, I spent $6,000 on this course on like how to do XYZ element of accounting, element of bookkeeping. Oh, cool. And how many clients did that bring you? Oh, I don't have any clients yet. Wait, so you've already spent $6,000, and let's say me and you have never met, you would not be able to go get a client? No. It's like that to me is a little bit out there. So always go and just get a very underpriced course for commoditized information. Now, one thing to really keep in mind is just in time versus just in case, okay? So just in case is kind of like the words where it's like a lot of people, once they start learning bookkeeping, once they start learning QuickBooks, they go into this downward spiral of, I don't know enough. Oh no, I just learned about this. Or, oh, in this Facebook group, someone said this. I had never even heard of that before, so I need to go learn this and learn this. And pretty soon, it's been a whole year and you've never even gone after a single client because you're still in learning mode. Okay, that is not helpful to you. Okay, assume if you're watching this video, your job is to try and get paid as quickly as possible so that you can go and either leave your full-time job or you can go and live like a very good lifestyle, right? So you want to get that sooner rather than later, and you don't have to wait. Versus what's actually more effective is just-in-time learning. So just in case is all the stuff like, what if this happened? Just in time is, I need this specific thing because this client needs this specific thing. That is the most effective because then you're only learning stuff that is relevant to the potential clients. Now, there's not that many things that are relevant to the potential client in a lot of cases because a lot of these business owners are very unsophisticated when it comes to accounting and bookkeeping. So if you're like a magician, you have all this stuff, you start talking over their head and you start doing what's called technobabble. And when you're doing too much technobabble, business owners don't really understand why they need it and they start tuning you out. So actually the more you know about bookkeeping, the harder it is to actually get business owners to want to work with you. And that's secret. So a lot of people, especially if they have any background in accounting, they ask me this question and say, Bryce, I have all this experience, but it seems like people with no experience are getting way more clients than me. And I'm like, yeah, it's totally true. It's totally true. It's because people that are newer to accounting and just focus on this just-in-time learning only know the key phrases that are relevant to working on it. There was this TV show, I think it was about 20 years ago, a TV show, right? And it was called SpongeBob. And on the episode, the main character's name is SpongeBob. He had this kind of mind transfer thing where they basically sucked all of his knowledge out except for they sucked all of his knowledge out. They told him go read this book on like fine dining because they're having a restaurant, and all he knew was fine dining, and he became like the best waiter ever inside of the fine dining industry. And one of the food critics was like, "Man, this guy is magic. It seems like all he knows is fine dining and breathing." And like he was this huge hit. It's the same thing with accounting and bookkeeping. When you don't know a lot about accounting and bookkeeping, you only know the stuff that's relevant to what you've done on client books. And a lot of client books can be similar to other client books. So now you have this very specific, narrow scope of skill set that pays the bills. And that's really how you should be thinking about doing it. I remember also one time, because sometimes, like, I was nervous when I first got started. I was like, what if I can't do the books correctly? Like, what if I mess up? And my mom went, well, it's kind of like when you're getting a job in corporate America. If you ever feel like you know every single thing that this job has, you should be doing this job, you're going to be underemployed. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I'll be underemployed if I do every single thing. And here's a cool thing about bookkeeping too, is that in a lot of cases, even if you've never done bookkeeping in the past, you're going to have a lot of transferable skills of other things you've done that relate to bookkeeping. Have you ever made a budget for yourself? Have you ever balanced your checkbook? Have you ever reviewed your bank statements to see how much you actually spent and then put it in different categories? Let's say, for example, you look through your bank statement. Okay, cool. I spent like $1,000 this month on food, or I spent $1,000 on my car, or I spent $10,000 on randoms like vacations or whatever, right? And you're putting everything into different buckets, right? You're categorizing them within it, right? So you're reconciling just to make sure, hey, was this expense actually a real expense, or did maybe there was a mistake on your bill, or maybe your credit card got stolen, et cetera, right? So you have that, and then you're putting it in different buckets. That's basically bookkeeping. It's just you're not doing it for a business. You're doing it for personal. Now, next thing, also, have you ever ran another type of business in the past? That's a big thing too. Business owners respect business owners. So if you've actually ran a business in the past, even something totally unrelated to bookkeeping, if you can explain that experience to business owners, a lot of business owners will respect your skill set and they'll actually want to work with you just because you know what you're doing and you're going to be doing the books in relation to business. And that's a major key in life, right? So don't feel like you have to have 1,000 years in bookkeeping experience, or you had to do bookkeeping because maybe you worked in a corporate and you don't do bookkeeping in your regular job. It's not about that. The transferable skills will be able to carry over, and then to make sure you're getting just-in-time training, you should be good there. Cool.